But as you can see, this is where I started. Yeah, I think, where did I start? Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Nitty Natty. Welcome to episode 264 of the Love in Stitches podcast. We are back in Nashville this week, and I decided to bring the podcast upstairs to my kind of like new stash corner. I did a whole video of getting all of this organized, actually 2 videos, one of getting everything sorted from all the various places that it was after we have been traveling and moving around, and then another one just getting it all kind of sorted through to go here. So if you haven't seen those are all up. Oh, is my cup in the frame? Oh no, I guess it's not. I guess I can keep it. No, this is too dangerous. I'm gonna keep it down here. Anyway, I don't usually record podcasts up here because this is also mine and Kent's office space. So our computers are like right behind the camera here, but he is out right now getting a haircut, which means he's not going to be in the background clickety-clacketing on his keyboard or anything like that. Also, my parents both usually work from home and they are working and like it's not loud today. So I'm just taking advantage of a rare opportunity to come up and be in this space because this is a nice big comfy chair. I don't know, it just kind of sounded nice today. So I'm like, why not bring everything up here? I am wearing my traveler hoodie today. I wear it a lot, but especially right now since it's kind of gotten chilly again here in Nashville. I'm also wearing some shorty socks. I found a bunch of shorty socks. I still have a ton of socks that I need to get rid of or like share with other people because I just have way too many hand-knitted socks, and I pulled out a bunch of shorty socks because the weather is starting to get warmer, and I figured I would start to wear those. And these ones are from a collaboration with Addie of Ruby and Roses. I think it was one of my very first custom colorways that I ever did, and we did that for the Love in Stitches membership, so that's really fun. Okay, this week I have been hustling with all of my projects. I have a ton of spinning to show you. I have a finished object, and because it is a new month, I have brought out some new projects. Well, I cast on something new, and I also brought something back into the rotation that needs to be desperately, desperately finished. But before we get into all of that, I want to say a big thank you to today's sponsor, Book of the Month. I am personally pumped to have Book of the Month back as a sponsor on this channel because second only to my love of knitting and crochet is reading. I spend every single morning sitting in bed, knitting and reading. Book of the Month has introduced me to so many new to me authors that I love, like Sally Hepworth, Lisa Jewell, and Abby Jimenez. Every month they provide a curated selection of books in a variety of genres, and all of the books are vetted by their team, so I can't go wrong. Then I just go in on the first of the month and I pick my books. You can pick from 1 to 3 books in beautiful hardcovers or audiobooks. This month, I ended up picking 2 debut authors to Book of the Month, so they're brand new to me as well. Sophie Stava's Count My Lies is a thriller. Also, can we just appreciate the knitted sweater here on the front? And Liquid, a love story by Mariam Rahmani. This one actually publishes on March 11th, according to Goodreads, which means Book of the Month has it first. I also just need a moment of appreciation for how beautiful this hardcover is. I absolutely love getting to discover new to me authors and just not having to wonder what I'm going to read next. I can pick out some of the best books with a swipe of my fingertips. Go to bookofthemonth.com to sign up and you can get your first book for just $9.99 with the code CLOVER. Thanks again to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the projects. On the very same day that the podcast ended last week, I finished my Musselburgh hat. This yarn is from Woolen Women Fibers from their February box, so it was really fun to actually knit that up during February, which turned out really great. So, oh, there we go. Now you can see it. I ended up doing my first 2-color brim. So I've made this Musselburgh hat. This is my 12th one, I believe, and I've made it different every single time. Like, I don't think any 2 of my hats are exactly the same. close, but not exactly. So this one I made in my size, but I'm actually not really sure if I'm going to keep it. I might just kind of put it aside. I'm trying to do something this year where I make more things that are not intended for myself. So maybe they're a gift, maybe they're a donation, maybe they're just set aside for now and see what it ends up being. But kind of as like a motivation for me to start working through a lot of my stash that may not be my specific taste. The hard part about this is I actually really do like this yarn. I feel like it is very me, but I also have a gazillion Musselburgh hats. I've also started a new hat this week, so I really don't need that many hats. So I ended up with, I don't know, probably 20 grams of yarn left. I've also been using this to make leads for my spinning, so it's kind of already worked its way into the scrap bin, and I've been using it for other things. And then each of these colors I had the teensiest bit left. So I think something to note here when you're making a 2-color brim, I've seen a lot of people do different colors on the different sides of the hat too, so that you can use up your scraps if you want to. So when you're doing the brim this way, and there's a diagram in the pattern, but just note that the first brim that you knit will actually fold up and pair with the second hat body that you make. And the second brim that you make will actually fold up and pair with the first hat body that you make. I think this is good just if you're trying to like pair things specifically. For this hat, it didn't matter because both the hat bodies are in the main color. But as you can see, this is where I started. Yeah, I think, where did I start? Yeah, this is where I started. So this darker color is the first brim that I made, but when I fold it up, that second color is actually the one that touches it. Just something helpful to know. I did not do any purl rows or anything. I just did a knit the whole time. So I didn't create like a specific spot for things to fold over. So there might be a little bit of other colors showing, but I think we need to try this on now. I didn't get to do the brim length that I normally do, which is a total of 6 inches, divided in half would be 3 inches per color. And because I had 10-gram minis, I could only do about 2¼ inches. So this hat overall is shorter than some of my other ones. But this is actually my first time trying it on. But actually it seems to be fine. Maybe just not quite as slouchy as some of my other ones have been. But I think that's all good. I'd probably turn it so that you wouldn't see that color change. There. I think that looks pretty good. And then let's flip it and we can do the other color in the front. Yeah, I think that worked out fine. Like maybe I would like a little bit of a longer brim, but I don't think it really took away from the slouch or anything. So this turned out really, really nice. I don't want to keep it on for too long just because it is clean. I'm clean too. Just took a shower today, so technically clean. But just in case I do end up donating it, maybe I'll wash that again now that I've tried it on. But I think it came out really, really great. Very happy with it, and even more happy to work a February yarn and finish it in February. My Beachcomber Flares by Brianna Lupino are not done. I hope to get them done, but really I think that was unrealistic. That would have been a lot of knitting on top of the crazy amount of spinning that I have been doing. However, I do have one leg, I think about an inch away from being done. So I've got it on Try It On Tubing here because I did block it yesterday. The yarn that I'm using for the bottom part of the legs, I think I have it in here, is reclaimed yarn. So it was yarn that was previously knit. Whoa, it looks like this. It was previously knit and then I unraveled it because I had knit the body of this way back in early January and it came out too big, and I just started again with another skein and left that alone. I just like cut it off. And so I knew eventually I would need to come back and rip it out. There's a knot in there, I don't know why. So I have been using that yarn instead of starting a new skein of yarn. And so it was very, very, very wrinkly. And actually, I feel like it is still, that's a lot smoother than it was. Maybe not quite as smooth as like up here where it wasn't wrinkly yarn, but it looks a whole lot better than it did. So I really wanted to block it to try the length because I felt like it was going to stretch a lot. So I did try it on before blocking, and it seemed like there's a chance that it was going to be a little too long. What you do at the bottom here is just a small little hem, very much like the one right here, where it's just a folded over double layer, and I think it must just help hold that down, like it's like a little bit of extra weight to just hold everything down and look very finished. So I wanted to block it before doing that hem because if it is too long, then I can back up a little bit, take out a few rows, and then knit the hem, and then I'll just be able to go back to this leg and repeat all of that, and these will finally be done. If you missed the whole saga of what's been going on with these pants, the last 2 episodes I've talked about the surgery that I did on the pants, with cutting off the legs, with knitting a crotch, with taking the crotch out, all of this stuff to finally land me pretty much back to where the original pattern is. My only major difference is I did not start my decreases right away at the leg, and I added a few stitches to accommodate my body. That's pretty much all that I've done. So flares, I ended up doing the small flare. So there's a small, medium, and large flare, and I knew I didn't want mine to be too big. So this is the small flare. You just do a couple of decreases every so often, and it's looking good. I'm liking how it is. So I think let's try these on real quick, and I'll show you what they look like. Okay, please note I am trying these on over my leggings because it just provides a little more coverage when I'm going to be, you know, on camera and stuff. But here is what they look like. I can stand on this chair because it's not an antique like my one downstairs. And then here is the flare. So right now, actually, I don't think it's too long. There's going to be an inch, I think, of fabric, or maybe like a ½ inch of fabric added. But I need to try it on again without the leggings because I feel like the leggings, you know, they're grabby. They kind of hold on to things and prevent it from dropping. I'm also guessing that these will grow a little bit with time. So I almost want to make them like maybe a ½ inch too short so that they can grow. I don't want to be stepping on them, you know what I mean, when I'm walking around. But typically when I walk around the house, I am wearing slippers that have a platform. So they can be a little bit long. I don't want to draft on my ankle. So I need to try these on again, you know, the proper way. But I do think I'm really, really close, and I'm happy. It's hard to show the flare. I'm happy with the flare. It's cute, right? I'm really, really happy with it. So yeah, these are so, so comfy. I also have like stuff in my pockets in my leggings. That would be fun if these had pockets. I think some of her other pants and skirts and skirts do have some pockets with them, which is so, so fun. So after I finish the legs, the last thing that I need to do is get an elastic to put in here to like help keep it up because it is pretty like stretchy and loose and everything. The other thing I've debated doing is taking out the original like fold over here, picking up the stitches and actually just knitting like a ribbed portion so that they would be high-waisted leggings. So like just knitting, maybe even holding the yarn double and just doing ribbing and let that just all like kind of come in here. I feel like that may still be something that I do in the future. We shall see. I have a new project to share with you, and it's a first for me. It is my first time knitting with my hand spun. So let me show you the project and then we'll back up and I'll talk about kind of the experience of this and like why I'm doing it. So here is my hand spun yarn. It's not super smooth or consistent, but I'm really, really proud of it. And I am making the Manhattan hat by Tori. So it's just a ribbed hat. I'm doing the like double fold over brim. It gets slouchy at the top. It has this fun decreasing. I've made it once before, and so I'm basically just making it again with hand spun because I saw Tori make one with her handspun, and I thought that would be a really great first project. Plus, I know I've got plenty of yarn for it. So the reason I started this project right away, even though I probably should be finishing things like my pants and some of the other stuff I'm going to show you, is that Brianna, aka the Little Wolf Knits, the person who taught me to spin, said that I need to knit with my first handspun before I start plying my second handspun yarn. She said it would really give me a good picture of like how I like the way that I plied things and just give me some important feedback on that before I finish this major project where I'm spinning tons and tons of yarn. So she's never been wrong, especially about the crotch gusset. So I decided I better heed that advice and get this started. So I brought my finished yarn to her house when I went and visited her in Pennsylvania. And our first step was to wash the skein. So after you're done plying everything up, you wash the skein, and just like when you wash your knitting or your crochet, it sort of blocks out, it plumps up, it fluffs up, it kind of relaxes in some places, evens out in other places, and it became very floofy. So I have a picture for a close-up, but I can also just show you here. I don't have the original picture to compare it to, but basically it got a lot more springy, things really filled in, and it looks a lot more like proper yarn after the washing, which was really exciting and so pretty. So after that, I decided I would wait until I got back here to Nashville to actually wind things up. And, oh no, that's not true. Oh, no, it is true. Sorry, I'm like getting confused. Brianna twisted my skeins for me. So I have a picture of my two skeins twisted up, and you can see one is tall and one is short. And that's because as I was skeining these, taking them off the bobbins, I realized that if I extended my swift, if I extended the pegs all the way out, it measures 2 yards. So every time I go around, I have 2 yards, making it really easy for me to count yardage, which I didn't do for this, but I could if I wanted to. So the longer ones are 2 yards, the shorter ones are before I realized that. So then my final step before actually winding it up into cakes and getting started with the knitting was to kind of select my order. So in this current spinning project that I'm doing, I have a lot more yarn and a lot more colors, and I'm being really diligent about marking all of the bobbins as they come off. So it says something like, you know, ply 1, or I think I said ply A bobbin 1, ply A bobbin 2. I'll show you in a second because we're going to talk about that project too. But with this one, I didn't even think to do that, but luckily it's a much smaller project. So I ended up with 4 small skeins of yarn, and one of them is already wound, the one that I started with. This one here, it's a little harder to tell once they are skeined up, but they really ended up being kind of a beautiful fade from purple to pink. I decided to actually pull this one out of the mix because it's kind of the deepest pink and the deepest purple, so it didn't really make sense on either end. I don't know how that happened or what I did, but these ones really seem to kind of go in a more specific order. So you can see this one, the first one I'm using, is very purple. And then this one kind of is like a purpley pink. And then this one is a lot more just pink. I might have a photo of this one as well that I put in there for Kent to put into the podcast. I can't remember, but I think they're going to really blend beautifully. So starting at the bottom of the hat with the darker purple, it's actually going to get folded up, so you really won't see it, which is kind of a shame, but it will leave me with more pink at the top of the hat, which, as we all know, I really like. So that is really exciting and fun. Now, as far as the experience of this, actually, let me pull one of these out again to show you. So this is my first skein of handspun. It's basically the first thing I did after I learned to spin on a practice like mini skein, and then I made this next, and it took me forever. But I did do it, and it is by no means super consistent. You can see there are, actually I think I pulled one of my later ones because this actually looks not too bad, but I mean you can see in here there's like a big like chunky bit right there, and then it'll get like really, really skinny and, just as I'm trying to figure out how I want to knit. And a few people said that I might have underplied this skein because it was laying very much like this before I even washed it. When Brianna and I looked at it together, she goes, I think you're right, or I think they're right. You did underply it, but you possibly also underspun it. So by underplying it, I then created a balanced skein. So maybe my plying wasn't too far off. It just, my spinning was a little bit loose. And for sure, there are, especially with the white we believe is merino. I had a really hard time spinning the merino. Actually, I think that's the pink that's really loose. You can see just how loose that is right there. Way, way underspun. But it's still working. It's still acting like yarn, and I'm still gonna knit it up, and I think I'm getting better on my second spin. So all just things to learn. But as far as knitting this, it's really bouncy and really nice to knit. I actually feel like it, as an experience, not like the actual integrity of the yarn, but as an experience, it's very similar to when I knit this sweater, which is also a 2-ply. This is the Mountain Merino from Mountain Meadow Wool. And I think it's a blend of like Rambouillet and different things. So it's very bouncy and very stretchy and not a super tight twist, but it was very lovely to work up. And again, I'm not comparing and saying like my handspun is anywhere close to this yarn, but the experience feels very similar and I'm really enjoying working on this. So even if it's underspun and underplied, I'm having a great time with this yarn. I feel like it's coming out really nice. It's really bouncy and stretchy. It's not difficult to knit. I think on camera, it's pulling the white out a lot more than in person where it's more just like blendy. So yeah, it's a little knobby. It's a little crazy looking, but I'm loving it and I could not be more proud of myself. Oops, I did forget to tell you one thing about this project, so dial it back real quick. I had to figure out the weight of this yarn, and I would love feedback on this because I don't think I did this perfectly. So when you're trying to figure out the weight of your yarn, you can do this with handspun or any type of yarn. You can figure out the wraps per inch. And I used to have a wraps per inch tool, but I wasn't spinning, so I got rid of it. So I just used a needle gauge instead because it still has, inches on it. So I wrapped around, and actually this picture here where I'm wrapping around, it looks like I did leave like the strands really kind of spaced apart, but actually when I really measured it, I scooted them closer together. But I would love any feedback or advice on how much tension you give when wrapping around, because I didn't want to really stretch it, but I also didn't want to leave it really loose because I didn't feel like that was accurate. So because of the thick and thinness of this, it was hard to get a measurement on it, but from the best I could tell, I was getting 13 wraps per inch, and the chart that I found said that that was roughly DK weight. Although I do feel like overall there are some parts of this that are a lot thinner than DK, I figured let's go with DK weight because the other Manhattan hat that I did was also DK weight, and I just went to a smaller needle. So I'm using a size 4 needle with this, and I think it's knitting up to a pretty nice gauge. I could probably go smaller if I needed to, but this worked out really great with this hat. Even though this is a worsted weight pattern, in my other version of this, I used DK weight yarn in a size 4 and it came out really nicely. So, okay, is that everything that I had to say? Yes, I think that is everything for this hat. And let's talk about my next project. This is a hibernating whip that has been on hold, I think, since last summer, and it's finally time to finish it up. It is my travel blanket. I'm actually not going to unfold it right now, but I will put a picture of it in because I had this laid out on my bed, our bed, me, Toaster, and Kent, because we all share it, Toaster especially. And I laid it out, and this is on a king size bed, so it is getting really, really big, but it's just too big to hold up like in front of the camera. It's also pretty heavy. It'll be interesting to see how much it weighs at the very end. So it's been on hiatus since about May of last year. I haven't added anything new to it. I figured out that the last yarn I added in was Montana, and Montana was our 25th state. So I have a lot of yarn to add back in. I pulled it all down. It's actually, I put it back, this like tub right here, right back here, is all yarn that needs to go into the blanket, but there was also more. So I spent probably 2 hours yesterday getting everything in order. So sorting everything from, okay, the last state was Montana. Where did we go after that? What yarn did I get there? Where did we go after that? What yarn did we get there? And it took me a long time to get it all sorted, but I was able to do that. I was able to track everything in my Ravelry project page so that it's going to be very easy for me to complete everything over these next few weeks. And I figured out that I need to do 60 more hexagons. And because I want to finish it before the end of March, I'm going to do my very best to do 3 hexies per day. They each take about 30 minutes. I'm sure today's will take longer because it's going to be my first one in a long time, but once I get used to it, it takes about 30 minutes per hexie. So it's still going to be a push to finish, but I do think it is doable. So all of the yarns that I'm going to be adding in this week, I've left downstairs in the bedroom. I've laid them out on the buffet. These are the 3 that I'm planning to put in today. These are all Wyoming yarns because that's the next place we went after Montana. So I need to wind those and get them in. So not only is it a lot of crocheting, it's also a lot of winding, a lot of management and things. So it felt really, really good to get that all sorted out yesterday. I will say it was kind of fun in like a tedious way, but mostly the relief and like the taking all of the brain power stuff out of the equation. So now I can just do the fun part, which is crochet, and planning like where all the colors are going to go. That's the best part. I did figure out that I am missing 3 states from my collection. I did buy yarn in every single state that we went to, but there were some states where the place that we went didn't have like a hand-dyed yarn, fingering weight yarn that had either superwash or nylon in it that would work for the blanket, because that's what I was looking for. So the 3 states that I was missing that from were Iowa, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And I'm happy to say that I have now rectified that. I asked for dyers on Instagram and I ended up ordering some yarn from all 3 of those places. So they now have a spot in the blanket. I'm just waiting for them to come in. They should get here, I think, pretty quickly. So I'm not super worried about that. I should be able to have every single state represented in the blanket, which just makes me so happy. I'm really, really excited for it. So that's the plan for this. No actual crochet on it this week, but next week I will hopefully have 20 something X's to show you. All right, the last thing I have to talk about is my spinning. So I don't know which of these I did this week, but a lot. I finished up spinning my first ply. So that was half, and these are kind of what the braids look like, or these are what the braids look like now that it's just a quarter. So double this, I spun all in a row days 1 through 28 for my first ply. Then I had started already the second ply. I think I had done maybe like 12 colors or so in the second ply. So that I split in half again. I got these cute little baby braids and I spun days 1 through 28 of that, all a 1/4 ounce. So now this week I am, and I've already started on, let's see, I'm up to day 12 already again. I am doing the second half of ply 2, which is also a 1/4 ounce of days 1 through 28. So I did a massive amount of spinning last week. I'm also trying to get everything spun in the next few days so that I can then ply it, so that I can then finish this project, because I've also been recording a vlog this whole time. So since February 1st, I have been vlogging, not quite daily, but like here and there, just recording this whole process. And I didn't want to share the video until I finished the yarn. So I'm like in that extra push to finish it. But also it works well for me because then I have the motivation I already have like momentum and motivation to finish this project. So I do want to get that done. So my spinning, I feel like I kind of unlocked a new level of spinning this week. I feel like it's getting even more consistent and even. I don't know if you can tell from that first game that I showed where things are not quite the same to this, where they're a lot more consistent. I mean, still lots of imperfections. Honestly, this I think is actually we can count them. It's my, oh, I just dropped that. It is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th bobbin, I think. So I have had so much more practice now with spinning, and I'm just getting more consistent, smoother. I would even say maybe slightly thinner. It's just getting better, and the experience is even better because it just feels easy and fun. And before I started the second half of the second ply, I still had everything this is a countdown, by the way. Sorry, I should have started with that. This is a countdown. So I was opening up the colors every single day from the Little Wolf Knits. And so once I started the second half of the ply, it was past February. I started it on March 1st. So it was past February, so all the colors had been opened. So I decided to take everything out of its tissue paper and lay it all out, and I have a picture of that here so you can see all of the colors together. I still don't really have any idea what this is going to look like in finished yarn. It'll be really interesting. Like this was one braid, so it kind of ended up being mostly a cohesive project like overall. But this I'm spinning as a fractal, so that's why I have the 1/2 ounce for the first ply and the 1/4 ounces split for the second ply. And then it's a bunch of colors that are going to then come together. So I should end up with around 7 skeins of yarn. I should have a sweater's quantity at the end of this. So I'm starting to think what I might want to make with this project with my second batch of handspun, maybe my first sweater's quantity of handspun. So if you have any suggestions for that, I am open to it as well. I would say my best guess is that I'm going to have somewhere between a sport and a DK weight with a 2-ply, but time will tell. Maybe I will have it ready for next week's podcast. I've got a few upcoming events to share with you. The first one is coming up really quickly, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, is Nash Yarn Fest. It is March 14th and 15th in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am going to be there. I'm going to be there on Friday evening, and then I'm going to be there with Kent on Saturday. We're also going to be in the Bliss Yarns booth from 2 to 3 p.m. on Saturday. If you want to come see us and say hi, that will be a spot where everyone will know we're going to be, but I will just be walking around, we'll be filming, we'll be hanging out, so feel free to come up and say hi at any time. I'm going to have my stickers on me, so ask if you want a sticker. That goes for all the festivals that we're going to be at this year. The next thing that I am also participating in, but is an online event, is the Knit for Food Knit-a-thon. It is coming up on April 5th. Currently, I am in the fundraising phase. So I have created a team, Love and Stitches, that you can join. You can join as an individual and then just attach yourself to our team. And the goal is to fundraise for 4 different organizations: Feeding America, World Central Kitchen, No Kid Hungry, and Meals on Wheels. This whole event is organized by Laura Nelkin, who is a super funny person, fabulous designer, has hosted this event for the last 4 years. I think I've been participating this will be 3 years, and it started the year before that. So I think that's correct. And overall, the goal this year is to raise $379,000 for these organizations, because that will be just a little bit more than we raised last year, which is incredible. Our Love and Stitches goal is to raise $3,500. I actually need to check and see where we're at. I think we have at least like $600 in there. So we are working on it, and we'll keep fundraising all the way up through April 5th. On April 5th, there are Zooms all day long for the knit-a-thon portion of this, and anyone who has raised $100 or more gets a Zoom link to participate in that. So when you sign up as an individual and fundraise $100, and then you can attach yourself to the Love and Stitches team if you want to. Last thing here is Yarn Centric. So Yarn Centric and Maryland Sheep and Wool are coming up. I'm going to be at both of them. Yarn Centric is in Frederick, Maryland. It is on May 2nd, Friday, May 2nd from 10 to 5 p.m. It is a ticketed event, so you'll buy a ticketed time slot. I'm so excited because I finally am getting to go to Yarn Centric. We went to Maryland Sheep and Wool 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Honestly, I'm not quite sure. We didn't go last year. We had a wedding. I wasn't able to go. And then I can't remember if it was the year before that I went or not. It rained the whole time when we were at Maryland Sheep and Wool, but I did not go to Yarn Centric. So I've been wanting to go to Yarn Centric ever since that first time at Maryland Sheep and Wool. So I am very excited to be there. You can find all the ticket information on yarncentric.com. I'll put that here so you can see it. And then also, I'm going to be doing a meet and greet at Yarn Centric. We're getting that all set up with Mike. I believe the time we settled on was, 1 to 2 p.m. 1 to 2 p.m. I'm going to be doing a meetup at Yarn Centric. The coordinators are helping me with that, so we'll have lots of people there to like help take pictures. I think they're going to have some fun little giveaway things. So as I get more details, I will share more details about that. But I am super excited for that event. And then also I will be at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I don't have specific plans for Maryland Sheep and Wool yet. I can't remember. I think the festival is like super long. Like it's like classes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then maybe the festival is open Saturday and Sunday. I need to look more into that. But I'm planning to be there on Saturday at least. And I'm also going up and taking a class early, which I'm really excited about. So that's going to be so much fun. If you want to see any other events that are happening just around the US and around the world, I do have an events page on nittynatty.com where I try to keep as many events linked there as possible. I opened my email this morning and had like 2 emails and like 4 new events to add. So please keep on sending them. I want to make this like a really great resource so that you can never miss out on a Yarny event. We spent the last week, half of it in Pennsylvania and then half of it back here in Tennessee. So that was a really great time just hanging out with Brianna and Michael and doing lots of knitting and lots of spinning. And then we flew home and I was really trying to keep up with my spinning goal. So I was spinning at the airport. I had my spinning wheel like on top of my suitcase, which ended up being a pretty great height for spinning, and just was working on that there. And somebody walked by and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're spinning," which is the first interaction I've had spinning in public. So that was pretty exciting. And it kind of led to like another unrelated to fiber conversation, but that was really, really fun. And then the only other thing I've been doing is binge watching Love is Blind and also apple cider vinegar. I have just been watching and spinning and knitting. Like that's all I've been doing. I have had nothing interesting going on like at all. The other day, actually the past 2 days, when I've been sitting down to spin and knit, I kind of alternated between the two. So I would spin, this takes me about 20 or so minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to spin if I'm really focused. So I would do that. And then I would switch over to my pants and I would knit an increased repeat, which was 4 rows. And then I would switch back to spinning and I would spin and then I would switch back to the pants so that I was getting both things done. So now I'm adding the blanket to my list of things. I feel like I need to stop doing other work and just finish these projects, which is very silly. I'm not going to actually do that, but that's how it feels. I'm like, I must get my things done. I think I'm just on the edge of finishing so many big projects. And because it is March, because it is a new month, I'm like ready to start some new things for sure. I'm ready to wrap some things up and start some new things that are fun. March always kind of feels like that for me. I feel like I'm finally into the point of the year where I've kind of caught up on things, or at least I'm getting caught up and it's time to start new things. March is also my birthday month, so I like to do something like sometimes a new project for my birthday. So I'm probably not going to be doing anything interesting this next week too. I'm just going to be spinning and knitting and working on my blanket and crocheting and then maybe starting a new project. That'll be my exciting new thing. Wow, so cool. Anyway, I think that's it for today's episode. Don't forget to check out Book of the Month and use that code to get your first book for just $9.99. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!